We are back on a big night of our impeachment coverage with a very special guest to get into some things we haven't done at all yet tonight. John Malcom, Vice President of the Institute for Constitutional Government at the Conservative Heritage Foundation. He was Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Bush administration. He also testified formally about the Mueller report as an expert witness for the Republicans in the House Judiciary Committee. Many credentials. Thanks for being on the beat.
Delighted to be your contrarian and happy to be with you.
Well, you've seen some of the evidence tonight and this week. What do you think is the president's best defense?
Well, look, I don't think these hearings changed anybody's minds. I fully expect the House to impeach the president on largely a party line vote, and I fully expect him to be acquitted in the Senate on largely a party line vote. If people went into this assuming that the president was clearly undermining the nation's interest for the sole purpose of gaining dirt on a political rival, then your views have been strengthened. But the president is going to sit there and say, I get to set foreign policy. I get to decide who my emissaries are. I had a legitimate reason to have a more suspicious view of the Ukrainians based on things that I was hearing and my emissaries were hearing about 2016 election meddling, about potential corruption, or actually a lack of seriousness on the Ukrainians' part to pursue corruption investigations, including Burisma and possibly including the Bidens.
Let's define that defense then. Is that a defense saying there was effectively a quid pro quo and it's okay, or still disputing whether that was the deal?
I don't know whether it's a quid pro quo or not. I think that, the presidents use foreign aid as leverage to try to get things. Joe Biden did that very famously when he had a conversation with the president of Ukraine at the time and said, I've got $1 billion loan guarantee and you're not going to get it unless you fire the Ukrainian general prosecutor who's investigating Burisma Holdings, where his son was making a lot of money. But there are a lot of presidents who threaten to withhold foreign aid for all kinds of reasons.
Right. I guess the question, whether it's criminal or congressional, the question is always whether that is for a corrupt end or not. A police officer has great powers to do all sorts of things, but only for the law and for public service. Let me play for you in your analysis where we've seen the shift. Lindsey Graham, who, as you know, is a big ally of the president and a lawyer, was previously taking a very different position that quid pro quo would be bad. That's what Sondland testified to. Take a look.
If you could show me that, Trump actually was engaging in a quid pro quo outside the phone call, that would be very disturbing.
Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
It seems this has put Republicans in a difficult spot because they didn't know where the line was.
I'm not sure it puts them in a difficult spot. I mean, a president doesn't have to call another president. A president doesn't have to grant a White House meeting. If there were some conditions attached to that, that's hardly evidence of corruption or certainly not an impeachable offense. With respect to withholding of the aid, Ambassador Sondland said that he presumed that it was tied to a connection to Burisma, possibly the Bidens. That would hardly be surprising either, since Rudy Giuliani had been running around quoted in the New York Times and tweeting about that. But, look, even there, a president of the United States is entitled to investigate potential corruption by people in the administration that preceded him. And if that includes Vice President Biden, it includes Vice President Biden.
If they could do it all over, would you say to do it the exact same way?
Well, look, I'm not the president's lawyer or the president's advisor. There are many things that this president does that I wouldn't do. And I probably would have accepted the view of, what seemed to be a consensus view of the diplomatic core, that the Ukrainians with the election of President Zelensky had turned a new leaf and that they were serious about their anti-corruption efforts. And eventually the president was persuaded to do that. Now, you can say, as Adam Schiff has done, well, he only did that because he got caught and the whistleblower complaint was there. But there were a lot of other reasons why he did it too. Vice President Pence had just come back from meeting Zelensky in Warsaw and had said he was impressed by Zelensky. A bipartisan group of senators, including Ron Johnson and Chris Murphy, had said they were impressed with Zelensky, and the Congress strongly supported the issuance of the aid. They ultimately not only got the aid, they got more than that. They got a $39 million sale of Javelin anti-tank missiles, which was not something that had been previously discussed.
John Malcom, I think what I'm hearing from you is the bad idea, not impeachable defense. I look forward to talking with you more and having you back on, a Republican DOJ veteran. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
Really appreciate it. We'll be